Yo, what is up, guys? I'm so excited to bring you this video because it has been so anticipated, and I know for a fact y'all are gonna love it because this is some serious sauce. All right, so stay tuned. But in today's topic, we're gonna be talking about how to flip small accounts. Okay, you guys who probably trade forex are probably like, oh my god, I want to flip $100, $200 to 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, whatever that might be. And for the people who are trading futures and who are coming into futures, you guys probably just don't know how to do that. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can do it on futures, because futures functionally just operates a little bit differently. So, this is why I say, guys, like, you need to have someone like me to explain these concepts to you, because I've been in the game for, quite some time now, 3-4 years. So I've studied all these concepts, these intricacies, these little tidbits, nits and bits, and I'm here to help you guys, learn how to do this the right way. And what's the biggest issue? So, the biggest issue with futures is that people don't understand that futures operates on margin, right? Margin is basically, and we're going to get into that, but it's a different form of leverage apart from CFDs. And when you're trading futures, you're trading on margins. So it's just basically like you need to have a requirement filled before you can actually even open a position in the first place. Yeah, let's just get into it, right? So how do you flip accounts, right? What is account flipping? So for those of you who don't know, right, account flipping is being able to obviously turn a small amount of money into a large amount of money. So obviously people don't have a lot of money to start with, and they want to get a lot of money, so they want to turn $100, $200, $300, whatever that might be, into 5 figures and 6 figures, right? In general, it's very hard to do this, right? Because you're essentially risking your full accounts, and yeah, it's not a sustainable way. But in futures specifically, right? And here's the kicker: for all the gurus who are saying, oh, you can just flip $100 to $10,000, $200 to this and that. It's not how it works, right? Because with futures, right, you're using margin-based leverage, and as you can see, what is margin? It's basically the amount you need to open a contract in your account, okay? And every broker, remember, when you're trading on a brokerage account, right, you're trading through a broker. That might be NinjaTrader. I'm going to cover all of them, but you're trading through a futures broker specifically, all right? And basically, the way this works is for trading NQ, ES, gold, oil, whatever that might be, one contract, to open one contract, that means you have to have a requirement of cash in your account to open one contract. This means that, sadly, you can't just deposit $100 into your brokerage account and then flip that $100 into $100,000. I know it's kind of clickbait with the title, ha 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 ha, but we're going to be doing something functionally equivalent, okay? Each broker has their own margin rates, and you need to find a broker first. So basically, we have NinjaTrader, Tradeovate, which is owned by NinjaTrader, AMP Futures, and TradeStation. Okay, so you guys know I love NinjaTrader, okay, and here are just pictures of their margin rates. We're not going to obviously go fully in depth into them. You can do that on your own time, but this is what the page looks like when you're looking for the margin rates, right? So NinjaTrader has the lowest margin rates. They have kind of high initial margin rates. We're not going to cover that. We're just talking about just purely intraday trading, just trying to put leverage on. And yeah, this is NinjaTrader. All right, this is Tradeovate, as you can see right here. This is going to be AMP Futures, really cheap margins, and this is going to be TradeStation. So it's really up to you what broker you want to use. Again, I would always recommend using NinjaTrader or Tradeovate, right? A lot of people love to use AMP Futures, but they have pretty hard limitations once you kind of scale up. But NinjaTrader is my go-to using their in-house brokerage, right? Now, going back to what I was telling you about, you can't really flip $100 to $100,000 just by purely depositing it, right? Because of this margin requirement, right? Your broker does not let you do that. Now, what you need to do is you need to deposit a high amount of money, and then on the risk per trade, you're risking $100, $200, $300 on that trade internally, but you already have the account at a high number, like $5,000, $10,000, and that's exactly what you need to do. So I've said this multiple times in other videos and whatnot. The sweet spot, if you are just trying to trade on a personal account, you want to get your feet wet, and you want to trade micro contracts, okay, is $5,000 to $10,000. You need this deposit in your brokerage account because that's what's gonna allow you to open up actual micro contracts through your broker, right? Because you have a requirement of depositing money in your account before you're even allowed to open up contracts. Because what's going to happen is say you want to deposit in $100, right? Great, you deposit in $100. Now you want to risk $100 on the trade, right? What happens is if you risk $100 on that trade, since you don't have any other amount of money in your account, right? The moment you open that one micro contract of $100 or whatever, it's going to automatically liquidate you because you don't have enough margin in your account to hold the position and keep it open. That's literally what this is. So these are the brokerages, and the whole theory is, where I'm going with this is when you flip accounts, you essentially want to roll your profits into the next trade, right? Very simply, it's what you want to do. So in this case, you see we risk $100 to make $300. Great. Now what we do is, and this is a 1 to 3, I think. In this trade now, let's start going for a 1 to 3, and it plays out. We're risking $300 to make $900. Okay, and in this case, both hit. So technically, we're up 1.2K from this trade and this trade, just from risking $100, right? Which is crazy, crazy percentage-wise. All right. Now, specifically, what is the risk system you want to use from a risk perspective to actually get this done? And I made a little graphic here, right? But what you're doing is, when I say you're rolling in the risk into the next trade, is as you have winning trades, obviously it's not going to look like this. You're going to have losers and whatever. It's I'm just trying to give you the optimal scenario of how you can make this work. Just logically, right? Assuming an optimal scenario, right? Obviously, there's people who are like, oh, you can flip $10 to $1 million. I'm not going to name names, right? But anyways, you can see right here the risk level, right? As we have winning trades, we keep our risk static like this. We're risking the same amount per trade. Now, at some point, once we've made enough of a buffer on our accounts, right, we've made enough profit in the account, and we can safely up the risk to where if we take a couple losses at that new risk profile, we lose. That's what we want to do, right? So on the 5th trade, you've probably made, whatever profit on from 1 to 4, right? Let's say we're risking, 5% per trade, as we can see with this graph. We're going for 1-to-1s, right? We're up, 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, okay? Now we want to risk 10% per trade now because we want to scale up fast and we want to make more money and you want to, turn our small money into larger money, right? Now the kicker is we're up 20%, right, on this 4th winning trade. So when we get to the 5th winning trade and we're risking 10%, right, on the trade now, we have 2 trades before, if we lose those 2 trades, before we go back to our initial balance, right? So this is saying, hey, you have 2 shots at hitting a winning trade at this profile, right, to make more money. But if you lose those 2 trades, you have to go back down to this previous risk profile and you're back at your initial balance, right? We're essentially trying to scale in our profits and scale our risk in a safe way, guys. Okay, you do not want to be doing this off rip because this is very risky. Risking a lot of money on your trades intraday with tight stop losses is very risky by nature, okay? So you want to do this in a safe way. So now let's say we go for 1-to-1s. We're up 20% here, risk 10% now. 10, 20, 30, 40. Great. Now we're up 60%. We're up 20% from here and we're up 60% because we hit 40% 1-to-1s on here, okay? And again, a futures broker will give you very high leverage, so this is possible, right? Obviously to a certain limit. Now there's obviously a lot of other caveats we're not going to cover, but this is just mainly from the risk standpoint how to do this logically. So now what we do is we double the risk again. So now we're risking 20% per trade, but now here's the kicker, right? We've made 60% profit on the account now. So what happens is now when we're risking 20%, we're getting the benefit of risking 20% per trade, the leverage of 20% per trade, but in a safe way because we're up 60%. So now if we lose 4 trades in a row, which is again highly unlikely, assuming you're going for a scalping style or whatever, but just say God forbid we have 4 trades in a row. If you lose those before we go back to our initial balance, and we're just playing with profits, right? So essentially we're just playing with profits, rolling the risk into the next trades and increasing our risk that way. So this gives us a lot of room and a lot of breathing room to play with 20% risk at this new profile, right? At the 20% risk profile, but with 4 trades left, okay? And what this specifically is going to look like is, as you can see right here, we said as you hit winners, you want to roll the risk in the next trade, right? What this specifically looks like is if we're risking, let's just say this is 1%, we're going to use $100,000. Again, I just want to try to drill this into your head. Okay, let's say, and this is kind of realistic of, assuming we're going for that 1-to-1, 1-to-3 RR range, which is more realistic, this is what that's going to look like, right? Like a realistic equity curve, let's say. So as you can see, right, we're risking 1% per trade. We're going for a 1-to-3. We win it, we're up 3% now, okay? We now risk 1% again. We had a 2 RR trade. Great. Now we're up 5%. We take a loss, whatever. Okay. When we get here now, you can see we're up 9% on the account. Okay. So we've made 9% on the account. Once we've made 9%, we can safely risk 2% now. Because if we lose, a trade at 2%, we're not going to be losing our actual money. We're losing the money the market gave us, our profits, right? So what this allows us to do is it allows us to safely leverage more contracts while giving us breathing room in case we do have a loser, right? In this case, obviously, we don't lose, right? And it will happen at some point where you up your risk profile, then you take a losing trade. It is what it is. But this gives us 4 trades at 2%, basically 4.5 trades at 2% before we, go back to our initial balance. And again, purely profits, etc. Now, as we keep risking 2%, now let's say we keep hitting winners. Oh wow, we've made like almost near exponential, not exponential, but we've made crazy gains now. We're up 21%. Holy shit. Okay, we took a couple losses. Oh shit, we're up 35% now. Oh man, now we're up 35%. So what we can now do is double our risk again, right? This gives us about 7 trades, I'd say. Obviously, we want to keep 4. I think 4 is a sweet spot, but this gives us about 7% or 7 trades that we have as breathing room, right, at the 4% risk profile before we actually, go back to our initial account size and are back to zero, starting at square one. So now let's say we risk 4% per trade. Now we have a loss. Okay, great, whatever. We still are up $19,000 in profit, right? So now what we do is, okay, same thing. We keep trading normally, and look at that. Now our winners, boom, we hit a winner. Now we're up 51%. Now, I'm going to tell you, in my experience, when you're trading on a futures broker, right, the sweet spot is like 4 to 10% on a tight stop loss. You genuinely don't want to go more than 10%, and 10% is more than enough, guys, because I'm talking about based off your initial account size, right? So, risking 10% on one singular trade on, let's say, $100,000, you're risking $10,000 per trade, right? So by no means is this a small amount of money, but you don't want to you want to keep it in that range. Because remember, as you make more and more profit, technically your margin increases, so you have access to more and more contracts, right? But it's not that you want to use that. You want to do this in a safe way. So I would just cap it off once you hit that 4 to 10% range, and you've safely, basically, reached your maximum potential, your leverage threshold. Stay at that point and just keep scaling the heck up, man. Because I'm telling you, man, hitting big trades at a 10% risk will add up, right? Especially if you're profitable, right? And yeah, that's very simple. This is literally how you do it, right? There's no bullshit. It's just you need to have a high amount of capital in your accounts before you're actually able to do this, right, internally, right? Because let's say we deposit $10,000, right? We can't just deposit $100 and put one contract on one micro, let's say, because we're just gonna liquidate it. But we can put in $10,000, risk $100 off our 10K and not be liquidated and not have any issues, right? And still have tons of breathing room, because remember, we can still lose that trade, right? So I hope this made sense for you guys. I really want to give informative videos, and a lot of people don't really understand this stuff. If you have any questions, be sure to, message me, shoot me a DM, right? Join the free Discord, whatever you want. Okay. Now, again, if you guys really don't know how to day trade, you guys, this maybe didn't make sense to you. You want a more super in-depth, lesson, or a super in-depth program that can actually help you with this. You guys know I have my mentorship, right? Obviously, I love to teach you guys, and this is kind of like everything that's in it, right? So it's 34 hours of course content, right? This is literally all the topics I cover, super in depth, right? You get lifetime access to my mentorship only Discord, and you guys know I made this, made my community about a year ago. 65 hours of like live recorded content, right? So at the end of the day, we go live with the team every single day, and you can kind of see, all the videos. It's like 65 hours of content. So plus the course content, that's like almost 100 hours of content, right? But the biggest thing is you get one-on-one calls with me, right? So I'm going to be working with you directly one-on-one, showing you the intricacies, the in-depth stuff, right? Kind of really showing you how to execute, what to look for, and really explain these concepts on a high level. For example, if you might not know how to do this, just watching a video or something, I'm here to explain all this stuff to you personally, right? And the second biggest thing is you have access to my backtesting sheet. So you guys know, I made a video on this, my backtesting sheet that I use to test all my trades, record all my trades, collect my data, etc. And that little screenshot that you saw before, as well as my trade journal. So you get access to all this stuff with my mentorship. And yeah, guys, if you want to learn, just apply for it in my bio. But yeah, basically, very simple stuff, right? And again, when you get your first account, I always tell this to everybody new who's trying to start day trading and just make a personal account or whatever, right? Please only start small, okay? Because I'm telling you, trading personal is a completely different game than trading a funded account, a prop firm account, or a big account size. You need to get used to trading small and putting on small contracts, getting your feet wet before you can start sizing up and putting in 100K in your account, 50K in your account, whatever. Because I'm telling you, it's a completely different ballpark. You just don't want to blow that money, right? And it's happened to everyone. I've lost money in my personal account, getting into it right off bat, not being experienced, whatever. It happens to everybody, right? So only stay in this range, get your feet wet, and obviously learn how to execute, learn your platforms, get used to this for quite some time before you actually start to, put in a lot of money or whatever. And yeah, with that, I really hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and stay tuned. I'm going to keep bringing you guys bangers. And with that, I will see y'all in the next video. Peace out.